Hello, everybody. My hair's a mess today. Oh, what a day, what a day. For some reason, new glasses don't want to let me see anything. So I am going to be going back to the eyeglass store and tell them to make them so I can see. Because, like, everything is super blurry. Anyway, enough of that. Hopefully you're having a wonderful Saturday. I see the 17th is St. Patty's Day. Luck of the Irish. Anyways, so if you're new here, welcome. It is Saturday and AA day for me. People ask why I chose to do this. Simple reason. I received the gift of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it taught me that I need to share it. So that's what I'm doing. Wait a couple minutes, see if people come in. I know I could have brushed my hair, but it's all right. So if you're new here, welcome. This is an AA meeting, and please, if you are in the chat or you leave comments, please be respectful that these videos are AA meetings and it is judge-free. And no harassing other people. That's not why I do these meetings. I do these meetings for everyone, and so just because somebody leaves a comment or it's in the chat doesn't make them the alcoholic. So please be mindful and respectful of others, and in the comments as well. So thank you for that. Anyway, I'm Sandra and I'm an alcoholic. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So if you want to know what book we're reading, what page, I put that in the description. But the Steps and 12 Traditions has the steps and traditions in the front of the book. So if you go there, you will find the steps and traditions. And that's where I refer from for them. So anyways, step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over the care of God as one understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9, make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continue to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. We are on page 446 in the big book. It's the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We are, reading He Lived Only to Drink. I had been preached to, analyzed, cursed, and counseled, but no one had ever said, I identify with what's going on with you. It happened to me, and this is what I did about it. On looking back at my life, I can't see anything that would have warned me or my family of the devastation that alcoholism had in store for us. To our collective memory, there was no drinking on either side of the family. We were from a long Southern missionary Baptist tradition. My father was a minister, and I attended his church every Sunday with the rest of the family, and, like them, was very active in religious work. My parents were also educators. My father was principal of the school I attended, and my mother taught there. They were both champions of community outreach and well respected. There was caring and togetherness among us. My maternal grandmother herself, a deeply religious woman who lived with us, helped raise me and was a living example of unconditional love. Early on, the values of morality and learning were impressed on me. I was taught that if you were well educated and morally upstanding, there was nothing that could stand in the way of your success in this life or hereafter. As a child and young man, I was evangelical, literally drunk with moral zeal and intellectual ambition. I excelled in school and dreamed of a career in teaching and helping others. It was not until I was an adult, away from the family and doing graduate work at a prestigious East Coast university, that I had my first real drink of alcohol. I had tasted beer and a little wine before that, and long since decided that fruit juice tastes better. I had never been inside a bar until one evening Some fellow students persuaded me to go with them to a local cocktail lounge. I was fascinated. I still remember the hazy, smoky atmosphere, the hushed voices, the tinkle of ice in the glasses. It was pure sophistication, but most of all, I remember that that first sensation of the warm whiskey radiating through my body. I drank so much that night that nobody believed I hadn't been that I hadn't been drinking all the time, and I didn't get drunk. Although there were parts of the evening that I didn't remember the next day, but more important than anything else, that night I belonged. I was at home in the universe. I was comfortable with people. Despite my active church and school life as a child, I had never felt really comfortable. I was actually very nervous and insecure around people, and most of the time forced myself to be outgoing like my parents because I thought it was my duty. But this night in a bar was like no other time in my life. Not only was I completely at ease, but I actually loved all the strangers around me, and they loved me in return. I thought all I thought all because of this magic potion, alcohol. What a discovery! What a revelation! The following year, I began my career as a teacher. My first job was at a college 50 miles from my hometown. Before the school year ended, I had been asked to resign because of my drinking. Within that short space of time, drinking had become an accepted way of life. I loved booze. I loved people who drank and the places where they drank. At that time in my life, although I had lost my first job and embarrassed my family, it never occurred to me that alcohol could be a problem. For that first night at the bar a year earlier, I had made a profound decision that was to direct my life for many years to come. Alcohol was my friend, and I would follow it to the ends of the earth. After that first job, there were many more that I lost, all because of my drinking. I taught in many schools and in different states. I was no longer the moral young man who had seen his destiny in helping people live better. I was loud and arrogant, angry, abusive, always blaming and confronting others. I was getting arrested and beaten up. I had developed a foul mouth and was frequently drunk in classes and in public places. Finally, my teaching career ended in total dishonor. My family could not understand what was happening to me, nor could I. In moments of clarity, I was full of shame, guilt, and remorse. I'd become an embarrassment to all who had faith in me. To others, I had become a joke. I wanted to die. Now alcohol had become the only friend I had. I wound up in an insane asylum, which probably saved my life. I do not remember how I got there. I do know that I had become suicidal. I became comfortable there, and months later I cried when I was dismissed. I knew by that time that I could not make it in the world. I was safe behind the barred hospital window and wanted to stay there for the rest of my life. I could not drink there, but tranquilizers and other drugs abounded, and I helped myself to them. The word alcohol was never mentioned. I do not believe the doctors knew m- much more about alcoholism than I did. That's all right, Lily. When I was released from the asylum, I moved to a large city to make a new beginning. My life had become a series of new beginnings. In life, I picked up the drink, got good jobs, and lost them as I had in the past. All the fear and remorse and terrible depression returned tenfold. It still did not register that the drinking might be the cause of all this misery. I sold my blood. I sold myself. I drank more. I became homeless and slept in the bus and train terminals. I scrounged cigarette butts off the sidewalk and drank from the common wine bottle with other drunks. I drank my way to the men's municipal shelter and made it my home. I panhandled. By this time, I lived only to drink. I did not bathe or change clothes. I stank. I became thin and ill. I had begun to hear voices and accepted them as death omens. I was frightened, arrogant, enraged, and resentful of man, God, and the universe. There was nothing else to live for, but I was too frightened to die. I was at this point that it was at this point that a woman who was a social worker on Skid Row and sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous sat me down in her office and told me her story. How she drank, what happened, and how she got sober. No one had ever done this before. I had been preached to, analyzed, cursed, and counseled, but no one had ever said, I identify with what's going on with you. It happened to me, and this is what I did about it. She got me to my first AA meeting that same evening. Yes. The people at the meeting gathered around me in kindness in those early days, and I did not drink. But the spiritual demons of withdrawal descended on me. I was black, and these people were white. What did they know about suffering? What could they tell me? I was black and bright, and the world had constantly rejected me for it. I hated this world, its people, and its punishing God. Yet I believed the people in AA were sincere, and whatever they believed in was working for them. I just did not believe that AA would work for me as a black drunk. I genuinely believed that I was different until much later when I had what I now know to be my first spiritual awakening. That I was an alcoholic and I didn't have to drink. I also learned that alcoholism as an equal opportunity illness does not discriminate, is not restricted to race, creed, or geography. At last, I was released from the bondage of the uniqueness. In early sobriety, I had to continue to live in a flop house filled with active drunks, not drinking. I became acutely aware of my surroundings, the foul smells, the noise, the hostility, and physical danger. My resentment mounted at the realization that I had flushed a career down the drain, disgraced and alienated my family, and been regulated to the meanest of the institution, a Skid Row shelter. But I was also able to realize that this bonfire of resentment and rage was beckoning me to pick up a drink and plunge into my death. Then I realized that I had to separate my sobriety from everything else that was going on in my life. No matter what happened and didn't happen, I couldn't drink. In fact, none of these things that I was going through had anything to do with my sobriety. The tides of life flow endlessly, for better or worse, both good and bad. And I cannot allow my sobriety to become dependent on these ups and downs. And living sobriety must live a life of its own. More important, I came to believe that I cannot do this alone. From childhood, despite the love I experienced, I had never let people, even those closest to me, inside my life. All my life, I had lived the deepest of lies, not sharing with anyone my true thoughts and feelings. I thought I had a direct line to God. Excuse you! And I built a wall of distrust around myself. In AA, I faced the pervasive weed of the 12th step and gradually realized that I can separate and protect my sobriety from outside hazards only inasmuch as I rely on the sober experience of other AA members and share their journey through the steps to recovery. The rewards of sobriety are bountiful and as progressive as the disease. They counter counteract. Certainly among these rewards for me are release from the prison of uniqueness and the realization that participation in the AA was of life is a blessing and a privilege beyond estimate. A blessing to live a life free from the pain and disgraduation of drinking and filled with the joy of useful, sober living and a privilege to grow in sobriety one day at a time and bring the message of hope as it was brought to me. So he was a black man or woman, whichever. And yeah, I can understand back in those days feeling that way. And even now times, even the world is changing for always. But one thing that does not change is AA's willingness to help the newcomer alcoholic. We don't care your gender, your skin color, your relationships with people. That has nothing to do with any of it. We are there to help with becoming sober and helping to stay sober. That's what AA is for. We're not there to judge you, and it is a judge-free zone. So no matter what you share or if you're still suffering and drinking, we don't discriminate against anyone, and that is a fact. And they have Alcoholics Anonymous in other countries, and so it's not just us who are the alcoholic who suffers. If you're still drinking, but that's what our fellowship is for helping everyone. It doesn't have any judgment on anyone. And if you feel like someone in AA is judging you, you need to say something because it is not okay. It is not okay at all to be judging anyone in AA for anything. So, with that, and alcohol has that effect on everybody. Losing jobs, giving up your family. And like I've always said, you feel like your family walked away from you, but when you start to become sober and you are in your sobriety, you learn that you walked away from them in all reality. It just happens that way. I mean, it happened to me for a while. When I finally did get sober this time, I'm just glad that I found AA and that I've gotten the help to stay sober and know what steps I need to take when I'm starting to think I'm gonna go and take a drink. I don't get those feelings at all anymore, but you never know when one might creep up and get you. Um, but I mean, you're always welcome back, no matter what. Um, and that's the great thing about AA is we're always there to help the alcoholic who still suffers, and that's the mission. That's our whole fellowship is to help each other out. And when you learn your steps and traditions, and you've been sober, and you're finally getting to that point where, okay, now you're understanding it, you can start helping others as well. Because as you receive the gift of AA, you can be giving the gift of AA. And that's what I do. Um, I don't have to sit here and share my story. I don't have to do these meetings. I've chosen to do them. And I'm willing to help others to find their sobriety and start that new side and new chapter of life and be on the sober part and realize that it's hard, but you can do it. It's not going to be an easy ride. Not going to be easy. I don't want to sugarcoat it because it isn't easy. But you can do it. And I'm just here to tell you it's worth it. Every single day of sobriety is worth it. And I recommend AA to everybody. It's helped me. And I am forever grateful of my friend who messaged me and said, meet me at an AA meeting. And I actually did. And I'm glad that I did because if I hadn't, I don't know where I would be right now. Probably not sitting here doing AA meetings. I'd probably be at the bar doing something dumb. And I have to say, I don't miss the old me at all. I actually sleep at night now. I don't have to like pass out. I just go to sleep. But, but anyways, it was a short story today. Um, but yeah, so and like this says, when I was released from the asylum, I moved to a large city to make a new beginning. My life had become a series of new beginnings. In time, I picked up the drink and got good jobs, and lost them as I had in the past. It doesn't change if you're still going on that bender of the drink. The only way it will change is if you get sober and stay sober and work on your work on you first and get you right, and then you can do other things. And that's just how it is when you're needing the sobriety. You got to put your sobriety first, and yeah. So I'm gonna read the daily reflection and then let you guys go. So it's March 15th. When we saw others solve their problem by a simple reliance upon the spirit of the universe, we had to stop doubting the power of God. Our ideas did not work, but the God idea did. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 52. Like a blind man gradually being restored to sight, I slowly groped my way to the third step. Having realized that only a power greater than myself could rescue me from the hopeless abyss I was in, I knew that this was a power that I had to grasp and that it would be my anchor in the midst of a sea of woe. Even though my faith at that time was minuscule, it was big enough to make me see that it was time for me to discard my reliance on my prideful ego and replace it with the steadying strength that could only come from a power greater than myself. And with that, we'll say the Serenity Prayer and be on the rest of the day. Thank you for being here and being part of my AA meetings. I truly appreciate you. If you're in the live right now and you're not commenting in the chat, that is fine. I completely understand. If you're just wanting to see what it's like to sit and listen to parts of the book, go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell notifications. I go live twice a week for AA on Tuesday mornings at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and Saturday evenings at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for AA meetings. And the rest of my videos are of adventures and shorts and just random. So with that, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Love you guys. Be safe out there. Stay sober.